That fell to Besson, and we know that Besson is the person who has been saying all along that this is a negotiation, that the president is open to talking with foreign trade competitors, and that Lutnick and Peter Navarro were the folks who were saying this is not a negotiation, this is all about a permanent regime change in global trade. So it looks like, to the extent there are factions inside this White House, this is the triumph of the Besson faction, and the Peter Navarro faction is a little bit on the run here at the White House.
Eamon, appreciate it. With the Dow up 2,100 points, the NASDAQ at the highs was up almost 10%. Let's bring in Steve Leisman, Steve, because we were talking a moment ago about how complicated things are for the Fed. If this is telling us that growth is going to hang in there in the meantime, I guess it makes things a little easier for them. But we're also seeing the odds of a cut at the next meeting go up to almost 90%.
At the next meeting, that's not what I have. At the June meeting, I have.
June, thank you.
For the May meeting, it went down to 20%. It went down a little bit for the June meeting. I mean, look, you can say this is a relief, but there's another 90 days of uncertainty to come, which is worth it. And you could also try to spin this as a victory, or you could see this as a failure of policy and leadership on the part of the White House, Kelly, in the following way. I remember the night before the tariffs were imposed and the day and that day, and I asked our great White House reporter, Megan Casella, why we had heard nothing of the plan. And the reason I asked is it because they don't know or they're not saying? And what we found out since is they didn't know. The plan was made up that day. It was not nobody on Wall Street. They didn't run it by Wall Street. They didn't run it by business leaders and CEOs. And now you could argue, after withering punishment from markets, from bond markets, trillions lost across the globe, the president, he didn't just flinch, but he ducked when it came to what was coming his way here. So they can try to spin this as a victory, and maybe they have 75 calls. Maybe they get 75 trade deals. But it just seems to me that the other way to tell this story is that the president just flinched and did not run this by the markets, run this by the business, and he was facing a deep recession. I will point out there are still trillions lost from that day, Kelly. There's still quite a bit that's been lost here in terms of where we were just on April 3rd. We're still down, way down. These 10% tariffs, the market doesn't like these either. We didn't get that back yet.